In the beginning of time, the Garden of Eden flourished under divine light, where Adam and Eve lived in perfect harmony with God and creation. However, a mystery hung over their existence. Who left this world first? The biblical narrative, while rich in details about the creation and the fall of man, leaves this question open, feeding the curiosity of the faithful and scholars. And the Lord God made the woman from the rib he had taken from the man, and brought her to Adam. Here, their union symbolizes not only love, but also the vulnerability of humanity in the face of temptation. As the cunning serpent approached, a growing tension set in. "Surely you will not die," whispered the serpent, deceiving Eve and challenging the divine order. Disobedience was becoming imminent, and the weight of the knowledge of good and evil was about to irrevocably change the fate of both. What was at stake was not only the life of Adam and Eve, but the future of humanity. With that, the expectation hung in the air, and the reader is compelled to discover the consequences of this fateful choice. The sun slowly rose over the Garden of Eden, casting a golden light that illuminated the green leaves and vibrant flowers. Adam, curious and attentive, walked among the trees, admiring the beauty of creation. He thought about how everything was perfect, but at the same time, he felt a slight unease within himself. "Why am I here? What is my purpose?" he murmured to himself as he watched the animals moving freely around him. Eve, on the other hand, was sitting in the shade of a fig tree, weaving flowers into her hair. "Adam, have you ever stopped to think about what it means to know good and evil?" she asked, casting him an intrigued look. "The Lord told us not to eat from the fruit of that tree, but why would it be so dangerous?" "I feel it is a test, Eve," Adam replied hesitantly. "God created us and gave us all of this. He wants us to have faith in Him. We must respect His order. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." That is what he said. Eve frowned. But what would it mean to die? We have never known death. And what if the serpent is right? What if he doesn't want us to be like him, knowing good and evil? She stood up, her gaze lost in the treetops. "Sometimes, I feel like there is more to discover. Something beyond what our eyes can see." Adam's unease grew. He could not ignore the seed of doubt that was being planted in his companion's heart. "Eve, we need to trust. God has given us all of this. Look around us." And God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. We cannot risk what we have because of a doubt. Meanwhile, the serpent watched from afar, its cunning eyes shining with silent malice. "Surely you will not die," echoed its voice in Eve's mind as she pondered the risks of obeying. Why live in ignorance when knowledge is so close? Adam, noticing the change in Eve's expression, felt a chill run down his spine. The atmosphere around them felt heavy, as if the garden itself knew of the dilemma that was approaching. "Eve, please don't let this idea take hold of you. We must stand firm." But deep down, Eve knew that curiosity was pulling her towards an unknown path, and doubt was becoming increasingly seductive. As the daylight grew more intense, a subtle shadow began to approach, heralding the decision that would change the course of history. Eve stared intently at the tree of knowledge, her heart racing with a mix of fear and desire. "Adam, what if we knew the truth? What if this brought us closer to God?" The voice of the serpent echoed in her mind, a seduction that pulled her away from trusting her Creator. And God said, "You shall not eat of it, nor touch it." But does He really want us to live in ignorance? Adam felt the tension rise, as if a storm was forming. He tried to remain calm, but Eve's unease affected him deeply. "Eve, if we disobey, we will be breaking the trust we have with Him. For as He thinks in His heart, so is He. We cannot let ourselves be carried away by momentary impulses." The serpent approached, its persuasive tone resonating like a hypnotic chant. "It is not knowledge that brings death, but the lack of it. For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What is wrong with wanting to be more? Adam felt cornered. He wanted to protect Eve, but the doubt she harbored seemed stronger than his determination. Eve, think of the consequences. And the man said, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. We cannot give in to this temptation. Internally, Adam wrestled with his own insecurities. What if, by resisting, I am being blind to something important? What does it mean to love if we cannot explore what has been given to us? He realized that the choice approaching was not just about a fruit, but about the very essence of their existence and their relationship with God. As the sunlight grew more intense, the shadow of doubt loomed over them, and the Garden of Eden seemed to await the decision that would change everything. The tension between them became palpable, an echo of the eternal struggle between obedience and curiosity, between the known and the unknown. Eve reached out her hand toward the fruit, her conflicting emotions swirling inside her like a storm. Adam, we cannot be sure of what God truly wants. If he is good, then why would he prevent us from knowing? And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The words of the serpent echoed in her mind, a song that could not be ignored. Adam, in a final effort to dissuade her, gently grasped her arm. Eve, remember that God created us in his image, and that relationship is what makes us special. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Genesis 30. We do not need more than that. Yet, even as he spoke, he felt the firmness of his words crumble under the weight of doubt. The moment Eve bit into the fruit, a wave of dread coursed through Adam. He saw the transformation on her face, a mixture of ecstasy and confusion. "Eve, no! What have you done?" he shouted, his heart sinking with the realization of what was to come. The serpent smiled, satisfied, as the sunset cast long, distorted shadows across the garden. Eve, still holding the fruit, looked at Adam, her eyes shining with a new understanding. I feel something different, Adam. It's as if everything is being revealed." She offered the fruit to him, and in a moment of weakness and curiosity, he accepted. As he bit into it, a wave of knowledge and guilt enveloped him, and the reality around him began to change. The first consequence was instantaneous. The innocence they shared dissipated like morning mist. They both felt shame and vulnerability for the first time. Then, the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves loincloths. Genesis 3:8. The garden, once a place of peace, now felt oppressive, and the presence of God seemed a distant memory. Adam looked at Eve, realizing that the decision made had not only changed their lives, but also the nature of the world around them. Doubt, curiosity, and desire for knowledge now weighed on them like a shadow. They stepped away from each other, the reality of their actions beginning to take shape. But what would come next was still uncertain. The serpent watched, satisfied, as the consequences of their choice unfolded before them. Adam and Eve were now aware of their nakedness, and shame enveloped them like a heavy cloak. The Garden of Eden, once a space of harmony, now felt like a labyrinth of despair and regret. And the Lord God called unto Adam, and said unto him, Where art thou? Genesis 3:9. The voice of the Creator echoed amid the dense jungle of their emotions, a reminder that the fellowship they had lost was irreplaceable. When confronted by God, the words of Adam and Eve were wrapped in fear and guilt. "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat." Genesis 3:2. The responsibility was quickly shifted, and the divide between them deepened. The serpent, which had seduced Eve, also faced its own condemnation. "And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because you have done this, You are cursed above all cattle. Genesis 3:14. Divine justice was manifesting, and the consequences of their actions became evident. Expulsion from the garden and the promise of pain and suffering. Reflecting on all this, Adam thought about how the pursuit of knowledge had been seductive, but true wisdom lay in obeying God. He realized that the freedom they had sought had turned into slavery to sin. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. Romans 5:2. The narrator observes that, despite the severity of the punishment, God's mercy was still present. He promised a Redeemer, a future in which humanity could reconcile with Him. Thus, the story of Adam and Eve is not just a narrative of fall, but a powerful reminder of the importance of obedience and the pursuit of God, instead of our own desires. In everyday life, we are often confronted with choices that test our faith and obedience. The lesson we can draw from this story is that true freedom is not found in seeking knowledge or experience outside of God's will, but in trusting Him and His wisdom. The journey of Adam and Eve teaches us that even amidst error, there is always a way back, and that divine mercy is an offer that never runs out.